Hi, and welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel if you've been here before. My name is Megan, and I'm also known as Nightingale Tarot. I'm a certified nurse midwife by day and often by night, who also happens to be a tarot master. I've been reading tarot for about 26 years as of 2024, and I've been teaching tarot for about the past 5 years. I also read Lenormand and regular playing cards, as well as runes, bones, oracles, so let me know in the comments if you're interested in seeing any of those other things for my videos in addition to tarot. You can find me in all the places by following the link tree in the description box below the video. That's where you'll learn how to contact me, as well as learn more about my services. You'll learn how to book several different types of private readings for yourself, or also malocchio, also known as evil eye removal. Most of my readings and services are virtual, via Zoom, phone, or sometimes even email, so you don't have to be living in Honolulu in order to get a reading from me. I love to read your comments, I love to answer your questions, and I love to engage with you here, so don't be shy with your comments, and don't hesitate to drop a request in that comments box if there's a specific topic you'd like to see me read on for you. If you like what you see, I greatly appreciate a quick click of the like and subscribe button from you. Don't forget to turn on notifications if you want to make sure you don't ever miss any new content. Okay, for today's reading, we will be using the True Black Tarot by artist-author Wang. Super cool deck. It's all black, which is why it's called the True Black deck. My newest deck, actually, I just got this deck along with its sister deck, which I will be featuring likely in an upcoming video before too long. Great little indie one-off, one of these decks that you buy directly from the artist, came all hand-wrapped and beautifully packaged. So really a lot of care and thought went into the creation of this deck. There is no AI in the use of this deck. It's all hand illustrated and hand painted by Arthur Wang himself, which I find really special. So that'll be our first deck. Next, I'll be using, this is just a deck of bicycle playing cards, specifically themed with the Fae. Recently got this deck. My mom got this deck for me for my birthday, which I'm super excited about because I've not really been gifted a deck before. I always buy all of my own decks. Those of you who follow me here know that I have hundreds, literally hundreds of decks, but no gifted decks that I read with. So this deck of playing cards is very special to me, like I said, because it was gifted to me by my mom. This will be the first time I'll be reading with it for today's video. So that's next. And then last but not least, I have the Tarot de la Nuit, which is by Alexandra v. Bach and Carole-Anne Eschanzi. This is a super cool deck as well because it does not follow traditional tarot imagery at all. This deck is very heavily focused on people, facial expressions. It's got kind of a fairy tale theme to it, so it's very interesting to read with, really different. And for those of you who don't know French, that means Tarot of the Night, the title of the deck. So yeah, super cool deck. So those are our 3 decks for today. Today's topic is a requested topic, which I'm really excited about doing, and it will be past lives. Woo! We're going to look into past lives today. Remember, these are general readings. Each pile is for many people at once, so take what resonates with you and leave behind what doesn't, because that message is for someone else. And don't worry, because you'll have at least one really clear, direct message for you here today. Don't forget to follow the link in the link tree in the description box below to book a private and much deeper reading with me that's entirely specific to you and just your situation on this or any other topic you'd like to look at with me if you want to do that. So what do you do now? Now you need to think of your specific situation regarding today's topic. What questions would you like answered today? And pick a pile. This is pile 1, the True Black Tarot and the Clear Quartz. This is pile 2, the Fae-centered playing cards and the Hagstone. And the reason I've chosen the Hagstone to go along with this pile is because the folklore behind a Hagstone is that if you look through the hole of a Hagstone, you will be able to see the Fae, or entrance to the Fae, I guess, world. So the Hagstone goes really well with this Fae deck. And then I have pile 3, which is the Tarot de la Nuit and the Icelandic Cross. Icelandic crosses are an interesting piece of history. They are kind of stylized Thor's hammers, and they were used in a period of time whenever conversion to Christianity was taking place in Norse societies that were traditionally pagan. And so this kind of becomes a hybrid between a Thor's hammer and a Christian cross to show that there was this period of actually several hundred years where Christianity was becoming widespread, yet Norse paganism was still really widespread. And you had people that kind of did this hybrid of both spiritual paths. And this is the symbol that was made and worn pretty commonly during that time. So these are your 3 piles. If you need a little time, you can pause the video here, but don't overthink it. Take a deep breath and go with your gut. Your first instinct is usually best. Ask yourself, which pile are you most drawn to today? Keep in mind that if you come back and watch this video on a different day, or even rewatch it today with a different situation or question in mind, you might be drawn to a different pile at that time and get a different reading. To skip the video straight to the pile you chose, you'll find timestamps in the description box below and you can click. So let's get started with past lives and pile 1. True Black Tarot, the Clear Quartz Crystal. All right, pile 1, let's get into your past lives. Let's pull one more card here. Okay, pile 1. So at some point in some past life, you were very wealthy. And I am thinking it was beyond just wealthy, not to sound super cliche, but it seems almost like royalty or some sort of government type position where wealth was also associated with control and authority and the ability to tell people what to do. So I'm thinking government associated wealth, like Roman times type, where, he who has the gold makes the rules, that sort of thing. You had wealth to the point where it gave you power and authority and control. However, I think that you likely felt very, very trapped by this. This looks like something that was handed down to you by parents or grandparents. This is lineage. So in, I guess, what was the most important or maybe most recent of your past lives, maybe the past life that you have the most karmic debt associated with, which is why it's coming up in this reading, that we need to free some of this karmic debt. We need to learn the lessons associated with this life. This looks like generational legacy type wealth passed down either through a royal lineage or a government lineage or some kind of inheritance where you essentially became kind of trapped in this position that you were in. I don't think you wanted to be in this position you were in. I don't think you sought it out. I don't even necessarily think it was earned. I think it was bestowed upon you. And that is important. We can look at that in this current lifetime that you're living, pile one, to decide what are the lessons to be learned from this. And the deal is that when you are wealthy in such a way that you did not earn it, you did not work for it, it was essentially forced upon you, bestowed upon you. Here you have this position of control and authority. You're doing it because you have to, not because you want to, but you've never known struggle or poverty or hardship in this life, in this past life. And this may be one reason why you feel so often like you have to struggle and like you have encountered hardship in this life, or you feel like you don't have control over things, or that you can't get ahead of things very easily. I feel like in this life, a lot of tragedy has probably fallen upon you, whereas in this past life, you were born with a golden or a silver spoon in your mouth. You were like Midas, right? Everything you touched turned to gold. And I believe that in between this life that I'm looking at in these cards and your current life now, you made some sort of contract, some sort of agreement where you wanted to separate from that amount of oh, excuse me, I had to sneeze. From that amount of wealth and from that kind of life, you agreed to come into a life with more financial struggle, with knowing what being without felt like. You intentionally made that choice to come to this life, right? Because that's how life cycles work. That's how it works. You have lessons to learn. You have things that are important that you have to get done before you can complete a life cycle and move on. And in this life cycle, you essentially contracted to come into hardship, to come into not wealth, to come into, I don't have any sort of lineage giving me power. I'm not of royal lineage. There's nothing like that. There's hardship, there's struggle. You know what rock bottom feels like in this life. because in this life, in these cards, you didn't know what it felt like. You might have thought you knew because it was woe is me and poor little rich girl or poor little rich boy or whatever. But honestly, you had it made in your previous life. And that's really why you have had to work so hard in this life, because that was the contract you made. The contract you made was, I need to know now what suffering, what poverty, what struggle is, because I didn't know it here. So, wow, pile one. That's the important message that's coming through from your past life into this life, which hopefully can help you understand some of the reasons why you experience some of the things you've experienced in this lifetime, and how to learn from that and what that karmic cycle feels like and why. So, all right, pile one, there's that. And now we'll move on to pile two, the Fae playing cards with the Hagstone that you can look through and catch a glimpse of the Fae world. They also say, they, folklore says that you can look through a stone and reveal the true identity of a witch. So that's one reason why they were called hagstones, because hags are witches that are enchanted by glamour spells to make them look young and beautiful, but actually they're like gross, old, shriveled up hags. And if you look at one through a hagstone, that hag identity will be revealed and you'll no longer see that witch as young and beautiful. So I think hagstones are awesome. I found this one on the beach here in Hawaii. It's the first time I've ever found a hagstone in the wild, and I was more excited about finding this hagstone than almost anything I have ever been excited about in my entire life. I had wanted to find a hagstone my whole life, and I was so excited. I actually found 3 of them that day on the beach, and they're some of my prized possessions because of the folklore behind them. So yeah, hagstone, used for protection. They say if you carry one on your keychain that you'll never lose your keys. So guess where one of those hagstones lives that I found that day? Yep, it's on my keychain. Sometimes I'll put it on a chain and wear it around my neck. So yeah, here's your Fae. Okay, well, excuse me then. Your Fae playing cards and your hagstone. And like I always say, a reading with me would not be a reading if I didn't flip cards across the desk at least once. So there you go. Might happen again, maybe the only time, I don't know, but there you go. We've done it. You. Okay. All right, pile 2, my Fae hagstone pile. So in direct opposition to pile 1, that was my super wealthy, I've never known any hardship. Pile 2, financially, definitely not as well off in your previous lives as my Pile 1 people were. However, even though there was, I don't even really want to say financial struggle so much as there was financial, I guess, awareness. You had to work very hard for what you had in your previous life. You had to save your wealth in order to, I guess, like make ends meet. In order to do this, I feel like you moved around a lot. You were always trying to figure out where you could cast your net next in order to do better. So I feel like you probably were part of a society that did not use the kind of currency we use today. So more like an indigenous, but nomadically indigenous society. You know, some indigenous societies were very nomadic and they were always traveling around, moving around. All of their wealth, everything they had, all of their possessions packed up and came with them everywhere they went. And this is what I get from you in your previous life, is that you were part of one of these indigenous, nomadic, everything I have is right here. I almost get the sense that you can just gather everything you own, everything that matters to you, in a couple of bags and pack it up and move. So I'm thinking something like maybe like a Romney traveler, or possibly indigenously European. Like there are societies that did this nomadic thing, like the Sami population of the Arctic Circle in the northern Scandinavia was one of these societies, but it's like, you know, there's no permanent settlement for you. I don't know how else to say that. I mean, that's it. You were always looking at where you needed to go next, where you should be going next. Everything is coming with you and going along. When you got to a place and resources ran out, you were very good at packing up and going to the next place. And it seems like a struggle, it seems like hardship, but no, I don't think it was for you. Actually, I believe this was a way of life for you. This was just your way of life. You did not have wealth in the traditional sense, but you felt very, very emotionally wealthy and fulfilled. I think that this was a very happy life for you, this nomadic sort of thing. And I think this is important in this lifetime that you're living now, because it's going to affect you in one of two ways. One, you want to travel all the time. You don't feel good about being settled anywhere. You get tired of being somewhere quickly and want to go. Or two, it's the exact opposite of that. And since you lived this nomadic life before, and you were always moving, and there was no such thing as like, this is my home, this is my homeland, these are my roots, you feel very, very compelled to establish roots in a homeland and, you know, wealth and a location that you feel like is your permanent spot, and where no matter where you go, you always return home. And I will be very interested to hear from those of you who chose Pile 2, which of you split into which way. Which of you need to travel all the time and feel restless if they're not on the move, versus which of you travel but always have to return back to that homeland, that roots, that home place. These tend to be like, you know, like small town people that surround themselves with like their little community, and no matter what they do, no matter where they go, they're going to get back to that community. I'll be very interested to hear from both types of these people and how that affects you. But in your most important previous life that you have the most lessons to learn from, you were definitely part of some sort of nomadic indigenous type society where there was no such thing as like a homeland or roots. And that still affects you, it spills over into this life. And you need to really evaluate that and look at how that's affecting you. Think about that. Am I afraid to travel? Am I fearful of uprooting and starting something new? Probably because of this. Versus, do I always feel the need to travel? Do I never feel settled? Do I always want to pick up and move every 2 or 3 years to do something different because I feel like something better is always out there, like I've exhausted this and I need to do something better and different, and how that affects you. So pile 2, this is your previous life, your nomadic traveling life. Exhaust your options here, move to a new place. Exhaust your options there, move to a new place, but very fulfilled and very richly wealthy in ways that are not financial. Super interesting. Super interesting, pile 2. Okay, and now on to pile 3, the Tarot de la Nuit and the Icelandic cross. And like I was saying during my setup, this is a super interesting deck. It is very, very divergent from traditional tarot imagery. There is no traditional tarot imagery in this deck at all. It is all very focused on the people. If you are a reader and you like to read people and you feel like you're really good at reading emotions and situations just from looking at people and their facial expressions and things like that, you will probably love this deck, because that is what this deck is all about. All right, pile 3. Let's take a look at what we have here for you. So, like pile 1, at some point in your most important past life, which is really what I'm looking at here. I'm looking at most important past life. What past life you have the most, I guess, karmic lessons to learn, and why some of the things you experience in this life are happening. So I'm really looking at one main important past life for each pile. So for you, this past life almost looks like you led more than one lifetime just wrapped up in this one life. I believe that you came from poverty. I think that you probably had parents that were very, very poor, and you worked hard in order to get yourself out of that. I see that you were likely something like a businessman or woman, probably man, because, you know, those were the successful people when it comes to business. But there was you did something where you essentially rose up and overcame your family's poverty. You worked very, very hard. And then you achieved a level of incredible wealth, like able to pass it on to your children who inherited your great wealth very quickly. You worked very, very hard, and then all of a sudden it was like almost like a lottery winning or something like that in a previous life. So much so that you then spent the rest of this lifetime essentially trying to, I guess, get out from under the shadow of this, because you were alienated from that poor family. You had this poor family, you achieved wealth quickly, you did extremely well for yourself. Like I said, I think you were a businessman, or it's possible that you were someone famous, possibly, that had, you know, you were like a rags to riches story, and you were accused of not having earned that. And so even though you had this wealth and you had this, you know, this life, and you were able to essentially outrun the poverty of your family, you were never happy with that. You were an example in a past life of money does not buy happiness. I think that you were very unhappy in your past life, and I think that you were very unfulfilled, and I think that you were very, very burdened by the fact that you were the successful one, and the alienation that led to for you, and how lonely you felt, because through the part of your life where you were no longer poor and you didn't have to want for anything, you were always ready to lose it. Like, if I got it this fast, it could be taken that fast. So there was that. And then B, I think you always questioned people's motives. I think you always questioned people's motives for why they were your friend or why they were around you. And you always felt the need to defend your position and your stance. And this was very, very, like I said, burdensome. It was very burdensome. And I honestly think that this was so burdensome and so depressing for you in your previous life that I think you may have actually chosen to take your own life in a previous life. And I know that's probably going to be really triggering for some of you who chose this pile, because chances are in this life, you have triggers surrounding that idea. You are probably very triggered by things that involve people taking their own lives, or depression deep enough that you think that may happen. You very likely know people that have chosen to take their own lives, because that's part of our soul contracts, right? We go through a life, we have lessons to learn, and then we come back and we are very often the opposite of what we were, or we are experiencing things from the other side. And in living a life where you really looks like here you chose to take your own life, you then become exposed to that in this life as part of your soul contract, so that you can know what it's like to experience that from the other side of things, which is horrendous. I mean, it's a horrible, I don't even want to say that, but that's what I see. That's what's here. So of these piles, pile 3, yours is definitely the heaviest pile, probably with the deepest and most painful karmic lessons. And I think that if you have an understanding of this and what you lived through, and the decisions that you made in your life based on this, it very likely colors how you feel about things, the lens through which you view things, because your soul has been in that darkest of places. So on the flip side, I think you also probably have a tremendous amount, even though you can't quite identify why, a tremendous amount of empathy and being able to really, really be a light and help people that feel burdened enough that they may want to make, some of these really difficult decisions. I think that you have a real gift when it comes to reaching people and feeling that emotion and understanding how someone can get to a place where on the outside it actually looks like they have everything and they should be really happy, but on the inside they're so incredibly burdened and in such a dark place that they're just not happy and they just can't be happy. You can understand those people differently than others have because you lived a lifetime like that. So, yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. That is a hideous, heavy, and horrible pile 3, but I believe in honesty, and that is what I see. So I hope that you feel helped by that, or that gives you some insight onto why you experience some of the things you experience in this lifetime, and that resonates with you, and that you're able to understand why you feel some of the things that you feel. And I will also take a moment here to say that if any of you are ever in that dark place and you are feeling like you may want to do something that you can't take back, people love you, and you are important, and you are cherished, and reaching out for help is always what you should be doing instead. So, shit. All right, pile 3. Thanks for watching.